Hi, Bill Barber from Poliigon here. In this video we're going to look at how to properly make use of Poliigon materials in Blender using our material converter. Before we get started, let's take a look at the files that we'll be needing. First of all, there's this one, Wood Flooring 044, which is one of our free textures. I already have that saved. We'll also be needing the Poliigon material converter add-on. I also have that downloaded. Both of these files I'll link below the video. Okay, so this is the scene that we'll be using today. It's a very simple scene, just a plane, a camera, and I've already set up some HDR lighting. But before we get started with the material, let's install the material converter. To do that, go to Edit, and then Preferences, and then just click on Install. Next, navigate to your download directory or wherever it is you've stored the material converter. In my case, it's here, and I'm just going to select it and hit Install Add-on from File. You'll then see the material converters available. Just click on the little tick box there to activate it, and then save preferences so you don't have to do this every time. And that's it, the converter's installed. So with the plane selected, I'm going to go to the material tab down here, and then if we scroll to the bottom, you can see the material converter panel. Good. First step is to tell the panel where to look for your materials. Now in my case, they're all in there. So I'm going to hit accept on that. I'm then going to hit this little button here to save that path into memory, and then yeah, that's it. All of the materials are listed and good to go. If we click on this little material preview, it will load up a nice display of all the different materials that it's found in that folder, and then what we can do is just scroll down to find the one we're looking for, which in our case is that one, Wood Flooring 044. So I'll select that, and then just going to click deselect all and just tick the wood flooring one there, and then load that material into Blender. Then what I can do, making sure that the plane is selected, is just apply the selected material, and then you'll see the wood flooring material has been assigned. Okay, so now if I jump over to the shading panel, which is a new panel in Blender 2.8, we can get going with our material. One thing you do have to check though is that the selected plane has been UV unwrapped. So to do that, jump over to the UV editing tab. Now you can see I have unwrapped my plane there. We've got a nice UV mapping on the left. If it's a simple plane like this, you can just hit U with everything selected and hit unwrap, and it will unwrap. If you've got a more complex object, you'll need to study up on UV unwrapping, and I'll include a link to a good tutorial on the subject below the video. But we can just jump over to shading because ours is unwrapped, and I can jump over to rendered view and we should see our material. And yes, it's looking good. Okay, so a few little adjustments to make before we call it a day with this video. First of all, let's increase the scale a little. I'm going to use a value of 2. No, let's actually use about 1.5, I think. Yeah, that'll look quite nice. And I'm also going to lower the strength of this bump just a tad. That looks good. One thing to point out, the way we bring this material in by default is the bump node is actually being powered by the displacement map. So if you're planning on using displacement, which is something I'll be covering in a later video, you disconnect this bump node and run the displacement through a displacement node instead. But by default, this is how it's set up. So, only adjustment I want to make to this material, and there are always sometimes some adjustments to make, is I want the floor to look a little bit more shiny. Because by default I don't think the roughness / gloss value we're getting here is ideal. So let's go and add in a converter math node, and I'm just going to place that there after the invert of the gloss, which essentially means it's inverted it into a roughness map. So it's the roughness map that we'll be working on here, and I'm going to change that to a multiply value, and then if I set that to 1, that's exactly where we were before. And what I'm going to do is just bring that down to maybe a 0.7. Just make that floor a little bit shinier. And I think that looks pretty good. Yes. Yep, we can leave that there. We'll continue to build on this material in the next video. So in summary, we've downloaded a material from Poliigon.com, installed the material converter in Blender, brought in the material, set it up on a plane, and made a minor adjustment to the roughness map.